there, I'm Sierra Bailey with Doers, Shakers, Makers, and back this week for another Tuesday tip. Let's talk today about multitasking. Oh, we're not talking about how to do it though. We're going to talk about the fact that multitasking does not work. It's a myth. I know we're all busy people. We have many things going on, especially if you work at home. It's very difficult to not be distracted by kids and pets and laundry and all the things while working on projects. However, there is so much research and there have been so many studies done about deep work, flow, the myth of multitasking, that you have to start understanding that they may be onto something here. A great example, and I know we can all feel that, is when, let's say you're sitting at your desk, you're working on a project, and the next thing you know, an email comes in. So you quickly answer that email, and then you're like trying to get back into the project, and you can't really get back into it. And then, oh, your phone rings, so you pick it up, and then you're like, where was I? What was I doing? That is because that's the perfect example of how multitasking is a myth. Because our brains have issues with attention switching. So every time you're going from that project to that email, to that project, to that phone call, you are actually attention switching. Cal Newport writes very eloquently about this in Deep Work, where I cannot remember who did the research. There were a few people that he cited though, and basically his thesis on this was that the attention switching is not the problem, the attention residue is the problem. So when you're working on something, your head starts to fill with all of the things that go with that. So if you're working on a project, let's say you're writing a podcast episode, your head immediately is thinking about, oh, how will the tone sound? What will the order that I go through this in, meaning like scripting it out? Where am I going to cite my resources? Oh, I love that idea. That is not attention switching. That is working on a project. That's getting to deep work. That is writing, researching, all of that is in one. Now, if you were working on that project and all of this, if you're going to do a podcast about, let's say, multitasking, and you're going to be thinking about all of the books that you're referencing, and you have all of these materials and you're bringing together the ideas, and then all of a sudden you check your email. And that email has to do with a client one-on-one that you have later that day. Well, when you're going over to that email, in your head, you're going to still have a little of that podcast topic, that writing, whatever you were doing. You're going to want to be trying to keep the thought that you had going. You're going to be wanting to try to think to yourself like, okay, I need to remember to get back to this. Oh, don't let me forget that. Don't let me forget this. That's attention residue. And it sticks from the past tasks and carries over to what you're working on next. So that is basically why multitasking is not working. The premise, and as Cal Newport brings up, why one of my favorite researchers and thought leaders, Adam Grant, talks about how he can manage to be a full-time tenured professor, and I believe the youngest tenured professor in the history of education. He has written multiple bestsellers. He publishes more than almost anybody of research papers per year. He speaks regularly. He does all of these things. I think he even has a podcast. So how is Adam Grant able to do all of these things without multitasking? Well, that is his secret. One, he, like I talk about all the time, is a big fan of having things in seasons or in buckets. So he knows when there are certain things going on. Like when he is in the middle of the academic year, he is perhaps not writing as much, although he probably is writing all the time, but he'll back off of something else and what have you. He's known to lock himself in his office for many hours of the day and spend very focused deep work hours working and then not working at that other time. So his whole premise is sticking to one hard task for longer helps to reduce that attention residue. So think about this. When you're working on your next project, think about every time you get distracted, you are actually creating attention residue and making it, I believe it is 15 to 30 minutes from when you get that email to when your brain is fully back in that state of flow. The book Flow by Szilard, I'm not even going to try to pronounce it. You can Google it. Goes into this as well. Here are a few tips for how you can avoid multitasking. Time blocking. It's a great way, knowing that you are going to be working on a specific task during a certain time. Actually putting yourself at a place away from distractions. So for example, if I am reading books that I am researching and taking notes on, I do not do this at my desk. I would be on my computer every 14 seconds. I am removing the temptation. I am removing myself from the temptation. I usually read at a long, technically a dining room table that is in my office that I put in there for that purpose. So I can have my books spread out and my notes, and I feel like I have lots of room like I'm at my desk, but only the books and notes are there. Another thing that you can do is actually remove yourself from the location. That is why a lot of people go to libraries to work or go to coffee shops, depending on your level of being able to deal with distractions. If I were in a coffee shop, for me, it would be constant attention switching and it would not work. For you, it may be fine. Maybe you came of age working in a very busy, loud office and you have no problem with that. Then we have things when you're time blocking, like putting together a block or of an hour or 2 hours where you're doing all of those tiny tasks. You give yourself permission. Maybe at the beginning or the end of your day, you fit in an hour where you are actually doing all of those random little things that accumulate that are on your to-do list, that are on your desk for the day. But as you're doing them in between trying to get the big thing done, it's not accomplishing anything. Some people go as specifically detailed. If you ever have studied David Allen and the Getting Things Done method, he will say to have always a list of the phone calls you have to make, of the emails you have to send. So if you do find yourself standing in line somewhere, you can catch up on emails for a few minutes. Or if you are going to, let's say, a meeting and stuck in a waiting room for 20 minutes or a doctor's appointment or something, you can sit there and maybe catch up on some phone calls while you're waiting. It's a good way to start to keep track of all the little things that pile up. And then when you have either some unexpected time or a scheduled block of time, you can do those little things that end up switching your attention. Time blocking is really a magnificent way to deal with that because it does allow you to schedule out the projects you're going to work on. Some people, however, get into that time of block that they have and they're not feeling doing whatever the project is. I've talked a lot about when you have certain energies and when you're good at certain tasks. So sometimes just leaving a block open and knowing you're going to work on a big project. Sometimes it means getting up really early in the morning so you do not have distractions. Nobody's emailing you yet. No family members are awake. The same thing for super late at night, depending on when you best do whatever the work you're trying to do is. So there are a lot of things that you can do to start, one, allowing yourself to get into that flow and that deep work, but two, to avoid the multitasking. Put those big projects that require your deep work at times that you're not having distractions. Put yourself in a specific location or area of your home where you are also avoiding distraction. You don't want to be, that's a whole nother episode. You don't want to be fighting what is around you. You want to make it as easy as possible to avoid multitasking. Don't make the struggle to be good a struggle. Make it easy on yourself. But multitasking is a myth. Right now, if I were trying to write something while doing this, would I be doing that well? I would not. I need to focus on what I'm doing, and you can tell that I'm focused on you. So please reconsider multitasking. Don't wear it like a badge of honor. Put a few of these tips into action. Let me know if they work. If you enjoyed this week's Tuesday tip, please subscribe. Come on back every week. I have another one every Tuesday. I'm Sierra Bailey with Doers, Shakers, Makers, and I'll see you next week.